So I wanted to make a video about this because the majority of the world's population has been deceived in what working really means. So I do agree that we're supposed to work, we're supposed to contribute, produce for ourselves and our families. It's like a natural instinct that man has, is to develop, to build, to produce, to provide, right? But what happened is we got confused on who and what we're working for and why we're working. So I just made another video before this one talking about the system that we've given into, that we've allowed to manifest, that we operate in and through and for now. And here's where the problem happened. Was, let's try to go as far back as we can before civilization, before like villages and before cities, before those type of establishments, before the system establishment, before governments, before all these things. What humans naturally did was they worked, they produced from the land, they harvested the land, right? Not everybody. See, that was the only work there was to do, though, back then. There wasn't cities and concrete and like all these things. Like you can be a construction worker now, but at one point in time there was no construction worker because there was no construction because we haven't reached that point yet, right? And I'm not saying I'm not for advancing as a human race, but the thing that people lost touch with was they started working for the establishment, for the system, and having to be forced to work for the system's dollars through their dollar. That's where things got out of control, because we know why, as say a village before the establishment, say if you're in a village, you know why you're working and harvesting the land, because you need to eat. Right? Right. And that requires doing something about it, right? So naturally we're like, oh, I better make a fire, and I better go and retrieve food for me and my family, or for me, whatever. If you didn't have a family yet, until you learned how to produce and provide for yourself, the evolution of mankind went on. So here's the problem, which ties into the other video I just made about why we're unhappy in our lives and why we're not living the life we're supposed to be living, is because we went so far away from our actual roots and how we were supposed to live in our natural habitat, and how we were supposed to work and why we were supposed to work and who we were working for. We were working for ourselves previously. Then the establishment came to be, and it drew us in and said, work for us and we'll give you all these benefits, we'll give you all these things, because the establishment came together and had a plan on how that they could use the labor of human beings to develop their agendas and their initiatives and what they envision the future to be. We were like, well, we're opportunists. As human beings, we do what we need to do to survive. So we took advantage of that opportunity as it appeared to be an opportunity. And believe it or not, the way evil works is it will offer you something good or something you need, and even provide a service to you that is beneficial to you, whether that may be protection, security, or whatever that establishment has developed to offer to you, so that way you will work for it instead of yourself or your village or your community. And the system became the community, and it became the centerpiece, and it became the entity that we work for its dollar that it created, that's backed by nothing, by the way, except for men with guns telling you that this is the new establishment and this is what you're going to do. But regardless, it seemed innocent at the beginning when we bought into this hundreds of years ago, or 1,000 years, however long ago, when it took place, when the evolution of mankind changed into this new establishment that we're in today, that, you know, extorts us through taxation and, you know, makes us dependent on it, so we can't live now without it. You can't just go to the forest and go and grow food and build a house and provide for yourself. And you may not want to, because you live in a materialistic world now, in a materialistic realm, and you've been influenced by those materialistic things, and that's your new want because of that deception that you've come under. So now you want all of these material things, you desire them, so that means you have to work in the material world for the material dollar to achieve these material gains, which is unfortunate. Again, comes down to greed, lust, desires of worldly things, material things that we actually don't need. And the farther that you go off into that realm, the more distorted your reality becomes, and the more destruction comes out of it for human beings. Like cancer, disease, all these sicknesses, because we started chasing this material, man-made infrastructure, establishment, and started working under it and for it, and then we became enslaved to it over a period of time where we became dependent on it. And then once we were dependent on it, laws and rules were put in place to keep you there, so that way now it was abnormal to not work for the establishment. If anything, it's illegal, and you're opting out of all of your benefits, like medical and all of that stuff. You can give your title away. Your SIN number, your birth certificate, is a bond, which is worth a certain amount of money, because you've been bought by the system that you live in right now, and you belong to it now, and that's your identification number, is your SIN number. Okay, yeah, believe it or not. So now you're a slave, but you're benefiting. And they say that a happy slave is a slave that doesn't know they're a slave. Do you understand that? I really hope you do, because if you want to know why everything is going the way it is, and why things are going wrong in your life, and where sickness comes from, and distortion, and displacement, and unbalancement, it comes from the fact we've left our natural way of living and habitat and went so far away from it that we lost sense of self, and it disrupted our natural algorithm, which causes grief, distortion, depression, emotional issues, health problems, spiritual problems, mental illness. These things are actually caused by going so far away from our natural element. What do you think, again, what happens to an animal when you take it out of its natural element and force it into a zoo where it's unlawfully being kept, but at the same time it's being fed? Here you go, here's a meal, here's 3 meals a day, so it keeps you there. But you would think that might be a better life than having to go and hunt for it, and you might not even catch an animal, you might die, you might starve to death, you know. So it is an easier way out, but at the same time there is a consequence to pay for that, and people don't realize that. When an animal, obviously by force, an animal is not going to go against its nature, because it is nature. Most animals are a good example of, you know, what nature is, and why we need to live by our nature. Like, you don't twist and manipulate nature, but we live in a world where that's normal now, where it's okay to go against your own nature, and we've been deceived and changed and genetically modified and altered by chemicals to feel different ways and to feel differently than we should naturally. That's caused confusion, caused one to turn against their own selves and against their own nature and deny themselves and deny their own nature. But it's another conversation. But here's the thing. We were never meant to work for an establishment or a system to benefit from in the first place. We bought into the benefit. But you know what? Careful what you wish for. You want more? You want material things? You want beneficial things? There is always going to be somebody that wants to benefit from you also, that has something that you can benefit from. But if that person is evil, or that establishment is evil, and now you work for that establishment to gain and obtain things that are beneficial to you, that will not be without consequence. You can't dabble in two worlds. You'll find out why. If you don't believe me, go play it. You want to play with good and evil and be 1 foot in the door, 1 out? There's consequences for that. You don't want to eat healthy? There's consequences for that. You don't want to do it, whatever, there's left and right, up and down. There's a consequence. There's yin and yang. You know what I mean? So, but the one way we know that we're doing the right thing is when we are living in our natural environment, in our natural habitat, in our natural way of life. As the same thing with the birds, right? The birds and the bees, they live in their natural habitat. They're living their purpose as their exact creation and purpose is, why they were created and why they're there. Each animal and bees, they serve a purpose, right? And if they don't work their purpose, what happens? What happens if all the bees in the world disappeared right now? There would be a consequence, right? So humans are the only broken thing that ended up not living their true purpose and living in their actual natural algorithm and frequency. And there was consequences for that. And that is all of the problems you see today in the world. Cancer, disease, sickness, sin, war, grief, anguish, like all of these things came from hundreds, if not thousands of years of getting off track, going farther and farther away from where we were supposed to be, living in the manner we were supposed to live. And that is the cause of all problems on this planet. And believe it or not, yeah, it does go back to this. It does lead back to the Bible, because God already knew what our purpose was and put us in our natural environment for a reason. And because of material gains and beneficial things and deception, being deceived, we went in a different direction from that starting point, which caused more and more and more problems through mankind. Okay, so yeah, your problems will never go away. The problems of this world will never go away until we start living our purpose again, the same way the bees do, the birds, and every other natural element that serves its purpose on this planet, which is all aligned and all connected to each other, believe it or not. The trees provide oxygen, the bees pollinate the plants in the tree. It all works in coordinates with each other. And humans are so stupid by nature that we've disrupted that and destroyed that and actually rewritten what's natural and what's not, and what's right and what's wrong. And that's complete chaos and distortion. And if you take a look around, that's pretty much the world today, is chaos and distortion. So, and it all stemmed from leaving our natural way of life. So if you wonder why you have problems or why you've suffered in your life and everything you've been through that was not good and not right, it's because you're not living your purpose. You're not living the way you're meant to be, designed. Like, we all have a purpose. You need to remember that. That's the most important, because you might think, well, maybe you're wrong. Maybe we were not meant to live like that, and this is the right way. Well, use nature as a guiding point to understand what's right and what's wrong, and what's like I mean, even nature obviously has been distorted, but it's been distorted by man's distortion. We have distorted the natural algorithm in frequency and vibration that nature even operates in. So now we may look at nature and see, well, what the hell? That's not right. So then I guess if they do it, then we can do it, right? Like two male baboons are like banging each other or something. And like, maybe that didn't happen at one point in time. Maybe they learned from humans, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Who knows? Where you don't know the first human being that was here. You are not the first human. You don't know what happened in the last 1,000 years. Straight up. So, and you may say, well, history says, well, you know what? History's been altered and rewritten too. You know what I mean? But there are pieces of information and things that teach you that do still stand, that are still there. And the only thing that can't be altered fully to the max degree, it may be able to be played with and manipulated a little bit, you know, but there's one thing that never changes, and that's, believe it or not, it's the Word of God. And you might be like, that's BS, man. The Bible is completely deceptive. It's contradiction. It's been written by 40 different guys. Like, it's a bunch of different books written by dudes. You know what I mean? Like, it's not God's word. Well, God operates through man, and he inspires man to write his word. Chosen people of God, people that are obedient, and he works through us to write his word. And it's still supernatural. But here's the thing. You might say, well, yeah, the Bible's twisted. It's all over the place. It's been manipulated and altered by man for thousands of years. Here's the thing. I did a little bit of research on that. You know, back in those times, like Hebrew, right? Like, it was originally Hebrew, right? There is not that much altering. You're getting it twisted, and you're exaggerating what the altering is. The altering was in between languages. It was converting in between languages from Hebrew to English, before English even was a thing. You know what I'm saying? So, and you would imagine throughout that process that it would be changed so many times to the point where it can't be true anymore. But that stands true with a statement from a human being. Like, when we say one thing, I tell you something, then you tell somebody that, and they tell someone that, and tell someone, it gets lost in translation in before you know it, once it reaches the thousand person all the way down the line, it's not even the same story anymore. That stands true for that, you know. But that wasn't the case with the Bible, because we knew from the Word of God that it won't work. Obviously, we will not receive what we're meant to receive from it if we were to allow that to happen, right? So the entire purpose of taking the Bible, converting it into different languages, was to not change the meaning in any way, even though the meaning has to change, because certain things in Hebrew meant different things in English, and things in English don't even mean the same thing that it used to in that way, terminology back in the Hebrew time. So that's the thing. It's just a miscommunication. We can still use our brains to understand things, but this is the thing. That's not what happened with the Bible. It was just changed into different languages, and our languages have different meanings, and we use terminology differently in different languages, and we have different understandings of what meanings are in different languages. So that clears that up. If not, you need to go do the research. But here's the thing. That's one thing you can stand on. It is, you know. And if people lived by the morals and principles of this book, there would be no sickness, disease, and chaos and distortion. When I started living by that book, all of those things went away. Every time I leave that book and I leave the Word of God, I go back to the worldly ways. Distortion, chaos, disappointment, resentment, envy, sin, grief, pain, suffering. That's what happens every time I leave it. I go back to it, I start living by it. Everything goes back in Unbalancement. Just my experience doing it, actually doing it. I spent months, years in jail with this book. where I had no choice but to read it. And I was arrogant at the beginning. I was like, no, I'm going to challenge this book intellectually. I'm going to decipher it and pick it apart and then call it fake. Once I figure it out, I read the whole book and I found out I was wrong. My foundation was fake. The way of this world is fake. And the teachings of this world are fake and false and manipulated and altered to and for the system, for it to benefit through us, using us and our labor and our lack of knowledge. When you see my other video that I link on this video, up here or there or wherever, or at the end of this video, please watch it, because it's going to reaffirm everything I just said, and then it will make perfect sense to you. But again, when it comes to working, we were not meant to work for man. We were not meant to work for the system. We were never meant to be taxed under the system. It was a good idea at the beginning, but the problem with this is that man becomes God and the system becomes God. And that's what happened. And that's why it's not just. And that's why we're still suffering and we're hardly getting by, paycheck after paycheck, and we're not making it anywhere, and we're unhappy with our lives, and we're unsatisfied and unfulfilled because we were never meant to work like this and live in this type of an environment in a city away from our natural elements. We were supposed to harvest the land, not take from the land and destroy and cut trees down from the land. We were supposed to harvest the land, assist the land in nature. And you know, that's the thing. We stop doing that. We start working for man, right? And assisting man in his developments and his initiatives and his visions and his ambitions, right? Man building, destroying, like, and that's the thing, right? So what happened is the world we live in today because of it. We have to go back to our roots, and yes, you can still work, but you need to let go of this world. You got to let go of the material things and all those things that you wanted to work for to get, because it's a part of this slave system. And that's why you're not free. You have enslaved yourself. You've chosen to live this life for your material gains and benefits, but you don't realize that you can still be okay, live a good and healthy life, but without serving the system and serving yourself and mankind and your people, your brethren. Humans are meant to serve each other, not an establishment, not a system. That's where we went wrong. And what's even worse is the system and the establishment is built on a foundation of greed and corruption. And that's another reason why the system does not work and never will work, because its core purpose was not to benefit us and uplift us, even though it claimed to be and appeared to be, but it was actually to manipulate and exploit the human being to benefit from our labor. So you need to know that. And if you don't, that's why you're not where you should be in life. And you may be benefiting from the system and have financial freedom or have what you want from the system. So you're like, I don't need God. No, that's dumb what you're saying. I don't need God, and I don't need to go live off the land. I can live in this world. But it changed you. It changed you from who you were destined to be, your purpose. And your purpose was not to be an arrogant, self-centered, greedy, selfish, boastful, angry, prideful, I got my money, don't worry about it, I'm balling, homeboy. I did that too. I treated people real bad because I had money and I didn't care about nobody else or nothing else, because you know why? I had the money. But guess what? It was set up that way. So that way it would take you farther and farther away from God and away from your natural purpose and your natural self, who you were meant to be, which is a humble, loving, compassionate provider of the land, the earth, Mother Nature, and your people that live within it. Your skills and talents and abilities were not meant for you only, for you to benefit and reap the benefits of and say, well, I'm good, I got my skills and I make the bills and I pay the bills and I get my money, sucker. I don't care if you starve, boy. You know what I'm saying? That's not who you were meant to be. You may be that guy right now, and I've been that guy, but guess what? The system made you like that. Because if you didn't work for the system to gain those material things, to get sucked into that state of mind and let it alter your natural love frequency that you have inside of you, that God gave you, which is the true frequency of all things that we're supposed to operate through and of and about and through, you wouldn't be like that. And you weren't meant to be like that, but the system made you like that, and you became like that because you had to serve the system, and you had to become like that in order to serve the system. So it flipped you. You've been flipped. Even though you're good. You're good. You got your benefits. You got your dental. You got everything. You got money. You got a car, a house. You're good. Nobody can't tell you nothing. Nobody can't tell you nothing. Right? Right. Okay. Sure. Did you hear what I just said? You weren't supposed to be like that. And if you feel content with the way you are now like that, that's because you're not of God. You're not of a, you don't have a loving soul. You maybe you belong to the devil, and that's fine. There is a line. There is good and evil, believe it or not. And some people were born on this planet, in this earth, to exist primarily only to serve the devil and not serve God at all. And the word of God is like a foreign language to them that they can't even understand, even when you try to tell it to them because you care about them. They still can't understand it. It's not meant for them. So you may be one of those people too. But the majority of us are children of God, meant to be children of God, whether we know it or not, whether we believe God or not yet, whether we've experienced him or he's revealed himself to us. And that's another story too. It's not going to happen like that just because you want it. You got to seek God out, and you got to be not challenging him like, yeah, prove yourself and I'll believe you. You think that's ever going to work? Somebody said that to you, what are you going to do? Exactly. Psh. Cool. I don't got to prove myself to nobody. Imagine a God. And you think that's going to work? You're crazy, man. You're crazy. You guys are nuts. But you think the people like me are crazy. Like, that's... And that happened through this process of leaving our natural state. And now the truth seems crazy to us because we've left our natural logic behind and we've adopted a new system and establishment. Well, not new, hundreds, thousands of years, but that's how humans can be deceived is through 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, right? But again, it goes back to the Bible, it goes back to God. If we lived by these morals in this book, we wouldn't live like that and be working like that. So we were never meant to work for this establishment. This establishment, the system, belongs to Satan. Lucifer, the fallen, he's been cast out because of greed. Because of greed. He wanted more. He wanted God's role. On top of his godly role, he already was gifted. So he got casted out. So humans are destructive and greedy in nature too. And it comes from the enemy. But you'll never know this unless you know the book. That's the problem. So I think a lot of people know this, but they still choose to live in this establishment and work for this establishment. But one thing you shouldn't do is attack other people for not living by the same slave system as you, because you've submitted to it and they haven't. So now you degrade your own kind because you made a mistake, but it was a beneficial mistake and it changed who you are at heart. And now in return, you treat your own flesh, your own type of human being. We're all humans. We're actually, doesn't matter what color and race we are actually all human, and we were actually for each other. We were actually meant to come here together to build with each other and be in harmony with each other. And the system and the establishment and its ruling has divided us. And, right, walk 6 feet apart. It's an expression. It's an expression of the devil and Satan and what he wants, which is division and separation from God. So that's what the establishment does. So you work for that establishment. So you have to stop. And you might think, well, then I'm going to lose everything. Probably. You weren't meant to have everything. You weren't meant to have all of these material things. You don't need these material. You might, in the world you live in right now, you do. because you are enslaved to it. You're trapped in it. You are a part of it. So now you need its components to operate. But if you didn't build yourself up into a world of distortion, which it wasn't your fault either. You were just trying to survive. You weren't trying to, do that, obviously. You were deceived like the rest of us, but then you wouldn't need all of these things that you rely on right now, where you can't just stop serving the system, or else you're pretty much dead. Like you're not going to be able to eat. You're not going to be able to pay your rent. You're going to lose your place, your car. You got kids. You got a family. You got people to take care of that rely on you. I know. But imagine building yourself up into a net in a web like that, and then finding this out and being like, I wrapped myself up in the wrong web, and now I am in a very serious situation that I cannot get out of. I can't, because I can't do that morally. I can't, can't happen, and it won't happen. And because we are good in nature, truly, and we were meant to be that way, and that's why we won't stop taking care of our people or taking care of ourselves, because it is natural to do that, but we have worked ourselves up into a web we were not supposed to be in the first place, and that's why there are so much problems in the world. Okay, so one piece at a time, one step at a time, slowly but surely you can wedge yourself out of that mess where you're not stuck in this evil establishment and system where you rely on it to survive, and if you were to stop, you will lose everything and perish. And then there is a way to go back to your roots and rely on what God gave us. The nature and water and shelter and food are provided from the earth. It's free. It's not, they stole it, the land, they stole the resources, and then sold it back to us, forced us by law, wrote a law that said we have to work for them to earn the water, food, and shelter back from them after they stole it. It's the same thing with colonization. They stole the native land and then came on it and made them work for them. Like, yeah, now guess what? You can't do nothing. We wrote all the law. What? We were here freely. We were here. Everything was fine. We were living off the land. You come and poison it. You build your establishments. It causes pollution. You distort and destroy and cause chaos. And you know what? They don't care. They don't care because they're evil by nature. But see, I've been an evil person by nature, and those guys, you're not tough, man. You know what I mean? Like, you want to be evil and hurt innocent people, you're a coward. You know what I'm saying? You want to disrupt the natural frequency of the world, you're a coward. Like, you know what I mean? That's not tough, homeboy. And, I've been around killers, hitters, and gangsters. You know what I'm saying? I grew up like that. You know what I'm saying? So, if you think you're cool because of that, there's lots of guys like that. The typical construction work, pissed off, talk, that's all they do is just spew. You know what I mean? I used to be that guy, man. Like, get your money up, you bum. Like, yo, what's your problem, you lazy you? Like, get off the curb, you. Like, I used to treat everybody like that. Trust me, I've already been that. So that's how I know what's right and wrong, because I've already been on both sides of the fence. So nobody can tell me nothing. I did it, both sides. And guess what? You're still wrong. Yeah. I hope that burns. I hope that bothers you. It should. It really should. So for the people that want to fix it, they can. It's gonna be a slow, gradual thing, but start building yourself differently, programming yourself differently, changing what you. Go back to your roots. Go back to the Word of God. Go back to the nature. Start heading back in that direction. Just forget about this, man. It is leading you into a hole of your grave. This establishment is failing. It's collapsing. It's burning to the ground. So either you're going down with the ship. You shouldn't have been on that ship in the first place because it's a pirate ship. You should have went on the other ship, and that was going back to its roots. You went the wrong way, period. Now you got to dig yourself out, because if not, you're contributing to the chaos and to the pain and suffering of this world and the distortion of it. Yeah. Now I understand why God did what He did to me, and why I became homeless, and why He broke my prideful spirit. He broke my man-driven ways of being, ambitions and desires, because he wanted me to see this truth that I just spoke to you right now. And it took 29 years. It took this long for me to realize and then come bring this message to his people and to our people, you know. And it's crazy, man. But we do have a chance, man. And what is written is already written. This is biblical, what's happening in the world right now. And there's an explanation, and I just gave that to you. And guess where I got it? From the Bible, from God, from the universal knowledge, from true wisdom, truth and wisdom and knowledge, real knowledge. Science has already failed itself. Science may be a logical explanation for the time being, but even a lot of very well-known scientists have actually said that science actually mathematically went into a circle and led right back to God. Those type of scientists actually end up getting discredited, called mentally unstable, or assassinated, killed. JFK, Martin Luther King, like, they weren't scientists, but they were, I think you get what I'm saying, Tupac, revolutionary people that, you know, try to go back to their roots and to the truth and leave this way of the world. Then you end up getting stomped out by the devil, and he turns the whole world against you, because he has the whole world in his hands. He's deceived the world. So take a look around. So we need to come back together and be a real community and a real body of Christ. Even, you know, you don't necessarily have to be a part of a church or go to a church. You can still be, you know, we can develop the body of God together. We can come together and go build a community out. But the problem is, of course, right, the power is at B. But if you know God, though, if you know the Word of God, it protects you. You know, he does protect you, and he has a plan for us, and he has a way out for us. Like, it works. And you might say, well, if we go to the force, they're gonna find us anyways with the heat mapping technology, satellites, and they're gonna kill us and bomb us anyway. So I would rather die like that and be the last person to get hit before I die like this out here in this system where it chews you up and spits you out by your own will. You did it to yourself. At least you tried to escape and live. And by the way, God has a plan for that too. We'll be protected, but we'll know where to go and how to live when the time comes. But even if we were to get God eventually, we're going to be the last to get God. That's the thing. We're going to be able to survive for another 100 years when mankind died. Like, literally, like, the water shuts off, hydro shuts off, the jobs go away, the dollar collapses. Then you get forced into a slave system again, like a full out, fully slave. Like, now you know you're a slave. You're like, oh no, and it's too late. Especially if they get stuff like that in you, like the vaccination and all this stuff, bro, and the chip and stuff. Like, then you know, even if you do, see, they had that figured out too. They're like, yeah, that's okay. When they get to the end and they figure out that we snuck attacked them, and they figure it out, and they freak out, we're gonna go, yeah, so what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Sucker, you already took the shot, you already took the chip. What? I'll shut it off. What are you gonna do? You can't run, you can't hide, you can't do nothing. You've already been infiltrated. You've willingly given your soul and salvation away. You have doomed yourself. You've been deceived. But God has been telling you the whole time what to do and what not to do, and where to go and where not to go, how to live and how not to live. So, I don't know, man. I guess that's it. I guess that's all I gotta say. It's not that I never wanted to work and I was just some welfare bum, you know, and I'm lazy, because I became homeless for 15 years of my life. I grew up homeless. I was 14, I was homeless. I didn't know where to go. You know, it was better to live outside than in the shelters. Like, people are stealing from you, stomping you, you're getting in fights all the time. It just gets worse if you go to a shelter. But society will hate you for that, right? especially if you tend outside. Oh, you just want to party, and you know, you don't want to go to the shelter and get your life together, and they don't even never been into a shelter, and if they did, they would be outside in the tent too. It's pathetic, right? You know, and they don't care even if I tell them the truth right now. They don't care. They're like, so what? Yeah, right, whatever, right? Those type of people. Those are the type of people that I want to unleash my wrath and evil upon, but obviously that would be taken away from God's revenge and his plan. He'll deal with it, but I'm the type of person that's been, you know, punching bullies out all my life because I've been bullied all my life. And then eventually I stood up for myself and I started smashing people out. But then all of a sudden I was the bad guy. Now I'm a criminal. Now I'm the bad guy. Now I'm the evil one. Because I played into evil. I let evil provoke me to do evil, and now it got me. It trapped me. Aha, sucker, what? Now you're stuck. Now I'm going to put a criminal record on you. I'm going to, you know, you're going to be treated different. You're going to be squeezed out by society. Society's going to spit on you and call you nobody, loser, criminal, you know, bum, homeless person, right? All by design. The system built itself up like that, literally, to get rid of a certain demographic of people at one point in time. And that's the lower income, mid class, lower class people, like homeless people, like every hurt and broken person. Let's just kill them and stomp them out. Even the disabled and the old, kill them too. Kill the Jews too. Like, bro, you don't know? Like, this has happened in history before. Like, bro, like, anyways, if you don't know, now you know. I wasn't referencing a Biggie Small song. Yeah, I was, but I was just playing. But anyways, man, what a mind blowing. You know what? I just prayed to God. I broke again. He brought me back, and woke me up again, and broke me again, and I said, I've been lost for so long, not being able to serve you, and you haven't used me anymore. You don't use me anymore to do your will, to preach your word, and I don't think that I'm capable of being used anymore for God's purpose. I've completely lost it. Like, I lost my momentum with God, and I just became worldly. So I prayed again, and I broke down, and I totally cracked, man. And I was like, I want to be used again by you. I want you to be able to use me for your will, and to draw people to you and speak your truth, because there is no truth in me. There's no good in me. You are the truth in me and the good in me. God made me this way. I was an evil person in a jail cell because I was influenced by evil all my life, and then it became me. I became it, you know, and I thrived in it. But God saved me. He pulled me out, and I said, how am I going to prove this again? I already lost my ability to prove through my trials and tribulations in my life how God pulled me out and what he did to pull me out and how it changed my life, man, you know. And I said, re-inspire me, you know, put that fire back in me, bring me back to life, let me serve you somehow, because I can't even talk about my past anymore. Like, I've moved on from it, and then I forgot what made me who I am, and what made me this truthful, honest, like, God-fearing, loving person. Like, I wasn't like that before. Like, I didn't have that nature in me. The Holy Spirit put that nature in me. The Spirit of God put that nature in me. I was not that person, you know. At one point in time when I was an innocent child, I was innocent, but ever since then it changed because the world I was born into. But he revived me, you know, and he's done it so many times, like, in my life, that in places that I thought were no way, no chance, it's over for me. But every time I'm like this close to death, and my life is over and my world is over and I'm homeless and the society's spitting on me, and everybody's treating me like a piece of crap, and then I think, oh, I'm gonna go grab the gun, I'm gonna go grab the burner and go outside and go and start smashing people, gun bucking people in the face, robbing people. Like, I'm, you know, like, sick of trying to make it in this stupid system that squeezes me out. Sick of trying to make it in society that squeezes me out. You want to squeeze me out? Oh, you watch this. Click, clack, boom, kicking your door. What's up, you little civilian? Now what? You thought you guys were big bullies? You think you're a gangster? And then you know what they do? They call the cops. And then you go to jail, and then all that gangster stuff they were talking, you know, goes down the drain, and you're the one that goes to jail. So it's a trap. The whole thing is a trap. Bunch of cowards, losers. You guys ain't on my level. You know what I'm saying? So I eventually had to escape that too. You know, I had to overcome that, and only because of God and His teachings and His Bible, man. I didn't grow up religious. You know what I'm saying? I didn't grow up around people talking about God. Bro, I was in the trap. I was in a trap, 14 years old, cooking coke in a friggin' Pyrex, dog, like in the crack. Like, 15 years old, I had a gun, and I was like around a bunch of dudes that, Easy's one of them. He got, rest in peace. He got, there was two brothers. One of them got first degree murder. The other one got killed. And these were two big black guys that were there every day at my dad's place on 170 Sanford South Avenue, Hamilton, Ontario. Second floor, I lived in that house. And it was the second floor, is 2-bedroom apartment. But, his G's were there from the pen. My dad did 10 years in Collins Bay Penitentiary. So he was a pen timer. So he had a bunch of gangsters there. They got guns. They're hiding them under the couch. I'm looking at it. There's plates of cocaine. Dudes are doing rails of coke. Bunch of black guys in the kitchen in Crip outfits, like full Crip. And there was 10, 20 of them. And they're just lined up, boom, huge mob in my kit. I'm scared as hell. I'm trying to make a peanut butter sandwich. I come out of my room, the hell? And I'm like, who are all these gangsters, And he's like, don't worry about that. My dad would tell me, don't worry about that. It's not your business. Alright, cool. I make my peanut butter sandwich. They're cooking coke in the kitchen. There's making drug deals. There's guns everywhere. There's gangsters, straight Crips, from OC, you know what I mean? Suited up, ready to go. And I grew up like that, 14, 15 years old, and they had me doing runs here. Yo, take that pack. Yo, go run that here. Here's $20 for you. Go get something to eat. The hood took care of me. The hood guys took care of me, and I grew up like that, for real. I was inherited into that life. All that gangster stuff you guys want to be a part of, and you want to be all cool and evil and all that stuff, yeah, you don't even know Wagwan. You don't. So I actually really lived that life, and I actually mastered it as a gangster. You know what I'm saying? And that's why God pulled me out, because He seen potential in me. You know what? How's the devil gonna lie and sneak and steal and do all that stuff when I know the devil is a fraud? When I know he's a lie now, because I did his where I worked for him already, and he betrayed me. He tried to get me killed. He tried to kill me. And then God said, no, mine. See it. And then he was like, oh, I almost had you, right? And now he's mad because I switched sides. It's like if you were a Crip and then you went to blood. What do you think's going to happen? The Crips are going to kill you. They're going to want to kill you. Same thing with the devil. That's what happened with me. I switched sides. You know why? Because he was going to kill me. He set me up for failure. He betrayed me. He was not the truth. God was. Here I am, 29 years old, still alive, telling you this right now. But I should be dead. My dad's dead. My first love died. My best friend, mental illness, lost his mind. Doesn't remember me. Digs in garbage cans. Can't say a full sentence. I had a husky timber wolf that my dad got when I was young. Can't remember, but we had her for 14 years. Or he had the dog. That's the thing, man, I just, I lost so much, everybody that I loved died or became a drug addict or went to jail, and, I was the only one that was preserved, and it was literally because of this book, man, and if my story don't make sense to you and there's pieces missing, that's because there are pieces missing, but you're going to have to go and watch my other videos to fill those blanks in, and things will make sense to you. I can't always put everything all in one shot and do a video, you know what I'm saying? But there are pieces missing that if you want to know about it, go look and it's there. And you'll hear my story and what happened from my whole life and how I grew up. And there's documentaries about me. Google Cory Resilient. There's news articles on me, I don't say that to boast. I'm just saying that my life is there because I put it out there to empower other people out of my circumstances. What I've been through, I survived because of this book, because of God. That's why I'm not a drug addict. That's why I'm not a criminal anymore. That's why I'm not dead like the rest of the people I grew up with. It was because of this, and I owe it to that, and I owe it to God, and I don't give it the way I'm supposed to. So I said, God, renew me so I can praise you and I can give glory to you, and through my testimony that you've given me. Anyways, that's all I got for today. We weren't supposed to work for the system. We're supposed to work for the land and ourselves and develop each other and our community, our village. Go back to your roots. Go back to God.